Hello. Good morning from Vienna, but good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Hope you're all having a most wonderful day, and welcome to day 3 of the JavaScript free bootcamp from Class Central. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. I see lots of good mornings, good afternoons. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from, where in the world you're coming in from, because it's always fun to hear about. So before we get started, just a couple notes. First of all, if you're tuning in for the first time, hi, my name's Ramon. This is the free JavaScript bootcamp. If you want to sign up and follow along, you can enroll in classcentral.com. We're going to be using FreeCodeCamp, which you could sign up at freecodecamp.org. You will also find the forum at group.classcentral.com. If you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, if you want to help each other out and collaborate, remember there are 7,000 of you doing this bootcamp right now. So absolutely go there. Join the Discord. You'll find the link there as well. Join the conversation. We got somebody tuning in from New Zealand. Wow. Hi there. We got, let's see, from Italy. Oh, this is fun. I love it. Keep them coming. Oh, from Bangkok. Oh, I love Bangkok. Oh, great to see everybody tuning in from Germany. Hi. Not too far from here. Let's see what else we got. We got a console log. Hello world. Lovely. Let's see what else. Where else people are tuning in from? From Cameroon. Oh, wonderful. Good to see you. Remember, folks, if you're watching from California, it must be midnight there, if I'm not mistaken. Remember, if you're watching this and it's very late for you, please don't stress. Go get some rest. Remember, these videos will be saved and uploaded to, they get just saved on YouTube. So awesome. We got folks from all over the place. Always great to see. Let's jump right in and get back to doing some JavaScript. So I will just share my screen. So I'm just gonna remove that. Oh, great, I see some more people. Belarus, Nigeria, amazing. Okay, so we're gonna be continuing from where we left off last time. So last time, yesterday, I left you some homework, which was to do the rest of the exercises up until and including shopping list. So if you're up until this point, here we are on FreeCodeCamp doing the JavaScript basic exercises. If you're until this point, you're at the right place. So we're going to be starting today from write reusable JavaScript with functions. So I'm just going to say this as I do every time. If you've got questions, fantastic. The way these lessons will work is we will have a 1-hour session, and then after that, we will have 30 minutes to ask and answer questions. If something urgent comes up, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat, my assistant Galbrush is also here, then we will if an urgent question comes up, I will try to answer it. But again, this is about keeping the flow going for the lesson so that folks can rewatch it, and then we'll have the Q&A at the end. All right, let's jump right in. We've got write reusable JavaScript with functions, and this is going to be, I've clicked on it. Now we're in FreeCodeCamp. On the left, you'll see the exercise instructions. On the right, you will see the top. You'll have the code here, and at the bottom, you will have the console. So let's jump in and see what we've got. Now, today we're going to be learning a brand new concept, which is of functions. And in short, a function is a reusable piece of code that we can invoke, that we can call. You will hear me talk about calling functions. But what does that mean? Let's copy this function that we've got here on the left. So function, function name. So again, if you've got questions, remember after the hour is up, we will have 30 minutes of Q&A. So we've got a function here. We use the keyword function, and then we give that function a name. Function name in this case. Then we have 2 parentheses, 2 smooth brackets, and then curly brackets, which you see I've divided into separate lines. So between these curly brackets, I can write some code. Let's do that. Console log hello world. So what do we got here? We've got a function with a name, function name. We've got some parentheses, but after those parentheses, we've got curly brackets. And inside those curly brackets, we've got some code. Here we're just writing a console log that types out hello world. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but what have we done? The output isn't showing anything. And you would be right. Any code that I wrote outside that function will be invoked. Let's give it a try. Console log hello from outside the function. So here on line 5, I've written a console log that says hello from outside the function. And you can see it's right here. But again, hello world isn't showing. And you might be wondering, why not? We wrote the function that does it. And that is correct. But the part of the matter that we're missing is that we have declared the function, but we haven't called it yet. We need to call the function in order for it to execute. So let's give that a try. In order to call a function, you will type out its name like you would a variable, and then you will put in the parentheses. This will tell it, hey, call this function. Very important. The name of the function and then the parentheses. That will then say hello world, to which you might say, okay, that's great and all, but now what? Why did we do this? This is because this function is reusable. This means we can call it more than once. Let's call it more than once. Say we wanted to print out hello world 3 times. Instead of typing console log hello world 3 times, all I have to do is call function name 3 times. And this name of this function can be, like a variable, anything we want, but it has to have the same rules. That is, it can't start with a number, it can't have spaces, and it is encouraged to be in camel case. So for example, let's give this function a better name, because function name isn't a very good name, is it? Let's call it greet instead. Now what happened? I defined greet, but now we've got an error. Reference error. Function name is not defined. That's because on lines 5, 6, and 7, I'm trying to call the function name, which no longer exists. So I need to get the name right. There we go. Greet, greet, greet. Now look, that code is a lot shorter, and it's a nice way in order to make a shortcut. But of course, we can type as much code as we want. It doesn't have to be just one line. Console log hello back. Say we wanted to have 2 console logs. We can do that. We can declare a variable. Const name equals Gerald. And we can, so now in line 2, we've got const name equals Gerald, and we can do anything inside that function as we would a normal piece of code. So instead of saying hello world, we're now saying hello Gerald, hello back. Hello Gerald, hello back. Hello Gerald, hello back. That's because we called it 3 times. Now, that's a function. Let's look at our exercise. Create a function called reusable function, which prints the string hi world to the dev console, and then call the function. Let's start over. So first we're going to create a function. We do that with the keyword function. Then we'll give it the name of that function, which is reusable function. Reusable function. Remember the parentheses. Then we want to write the inside of that function with curly brackets and then a new line. Next, we want to have this, see what this code function does, which is print the string hi world to the dev console. Console.log hi world. Remember, capital W. That's almost done. That's step 1 done. But step 2 says call the function. And we do that by typing out the name of the function, reusable function. And then, don't forget, parentheses. So we've defined the function and we've called it. It's printing out hi world, so that's a good sign. Let's see if the tests agree. And they do. First pat of the day. Let's keep going. Next, we're going to talk about arguments or parameters. Now, this is where things get quite interesting with functions, because with functions, you can say, hey, call this function and give it these values. Let's define a function and you'll see what I mean. Let's define a new function, and what I want to do with this function is that I will give it two numbers and it will print out the sum of those two numbers. Okay? So what a good name for that would be is print sum. Makes sense? And here's where this is where things get a little bit different. So we've defined a function with the function keyword. We've given it the name print sum. But now in the parentheses, we're going to say these are the two arguments that it can be passed. So let's see. The first one will be the first number. So we'll call it first number. And the second argument will be the second number. Second number. I'm just going to make this a little bit wider so we can see better. So let's do console.log. And I said, all this does is print out the sum, the addition of those two numbers. First number plus second number. Console log first number plus second number. Now, what's going on? So how do we call this function now? Because if I do print sum with the brackets, I'm getting not a number. And if you remember from day one of the bootcamp, this is because we're trying to add undefined to something else. So that's not quite what we want. What's going on? What are these? Are these variables? What are they? And what they are is a variable that will hold the value that we pass. Let me explain what I mean. Now, when I call print sum in the brackets, I'm going to give it the two arguments. Let's give an example. Let's say we want to print out the sum of 5 and 6. So we'll pass in the first parameter, 5. And then with a comma, I will now declare the second parameter, 6. Look at it now. It's printing out 11. So come with me on a short journey, if you may. This 5, when I call print sum, is being stored in first number temporarily. So first number is being given the value 5. Second number is being given the value 6. So then when we console log first number and second number, we're printing out 5 plus 6, which is, as you see in the output, 11. If I call it again, this time with different numbers, let's try 2 and 9. No, 7. What's going on here? 2 is being stored in first number, and 7 is being stored in second number. But I'm calling this function twice. So the first time I call it, 5 is assigned to first number and 6 is assigned to second number. In the second time when I call it, 2 is assigned to first number and 7 is assigned to second number. Let's test that with console log. Console log. First number is plus first number. Remember from yesterday, we can add strings. Console log. Second number is, and then plus second number. Check it out. So the first time I call print sum, I'm just going to quickly comment this out. Remember, if I do a comment, it's going to disappear for a sec. So when I call print sum, remember, this one's being ignored now. When I call print sum with 5 and 6, we will see first number is 5, second number is 6, and then we print out the sum, which is 11. Now, if I call print sum with 2 and 7, check it out. We do the first time. First number is 5, second number is 6, and then 11. But if I scroll down, check it out. First number is 2, second number is 7, and then the sum is 9. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but what if I want to access first number and second number outside the function? Look at this. Console log first number. Scroll down a bit. Look at this. First number 5 and print sum 5 and 6 looks good. We've seen it here before. Print sum 2 and 7 looks good. We've seen it before. But when I call console log on first number, I'm getting an error. First number is not defined. Why is that? I thought we have first number in the function, but that's the thing. We have first number inside the scope of the function. So inside the function, we have access to first number, but outside of the function, we do not. And this is something very important to remember. So, I am going to quickly answer this question. You say that thank you. You say that parameters of the function are variables. Are they let, const, var, or something different? I think they're var. Let's try it out. Let first number equals 2. Oh, we got an error. Let's take a look. Identifier first number has already been declared. Good. That means that it might be let. Let's take a look and see if it's const. Can we reassign it? We can. So it is kind of like a let. I love this question. Thank you. All right. I've been talking for a while. Let's do our exercise. Just going to delete all my code. Create a function called function with args that accepts 2 arguments and outputs their sum to the dev console. We just did this. Awesome. So let's do it again just for practice. So function keyword, and the name of the function is function with args. It takes 2 arguments. So that's first and second. I'm going to call them first and second just for brevity's sake. So first and second, curly brackets, and let's see. It accepts 2 arguments and outputs their sum to the dev console. Console.log first plus second. Call the function with 2 numbers as arguments. Okay, we know how to do that. Function with args. And now we just need to come up with a number. Let's say 5 and 6. I don't know what's with me in 5 and 6. Oh, function with the args is not defined. Look at my typo. Look at my typo. There we go. Let's remove that. There we go. So that prints out 11. Run our tests. Pat, pat. Nice. What do we got here? Return a value from a function with return. So we've seen that we can pass arguments. We can also return stuff from a function, which is interesting. Let's play around with it a little bit. Let's see what's going on with this example here. Function plus 3 num. So we've defined a function called plus 3, and we give it an argument num, and it returns num plus 3. Cool. So this is a new thing we're encountering, return. Let's play around with it and see what it does. Console log plus 3. So we're gonna console log the output of plus 3, and then we're gonna give it the argument. Let's give it a number. Let's say 5. So check it out. If I console log plus 3 with the argument 5, it prints out 8. Now, if I just call plus 3 with 5 with a semicolon, nothing happens. Why? Because there's no console log going on. But, and this is very important, let's go back to console log real quick. Console.log plus 3. The value that is being returned from this function is getting printed out, which is 8. But watch what happens if I don't return. Undefined. So we need to tell the function, hey, if you want, you can return a value. If you don't return a value, I'm going to return undefined. This is really key to bear in mind. So again, the return keyword lets us say return num plus 3, which gives us 8. Now, what happens if you have 2 returns? Let's mess around with that. 7. Look at this. Console log plus 3 with the argument 5 is printing out 7. And look at something else. This line is now kind of like grayed out. So return num plus 3 is grayed out. What's going on? A function, as the moment it returns, it stops executing. So any line that comes after return is going to be ignored. So generally, you want to make return one of the last lines that you have in a function. We'll see the one of the caveat a little later on. But again, return makes it so that a function will give you a value. If a function does not return a value, it will return undefined, which makes sense. There's no value. Okay, let's look at our exercise. Create a function times 5 that accepts one argument, multiplies it by 5, and returns the new value. Okay. Oh, okay. Got a question from Manoj that I want to address. Is return similar to print? No. Because what you can do with return is also assign it to a variable. Check it out. Const a equals plus 3, 7. Look at my code. Nothing. But the value returned from plus 3 is being stored in the variable a. If we console log a, we get 10 because 3 plus 7 is 10. But if I don't have a return, a will be undefined. Good question. Love it. Okay. What's our exercise? Times 5, accepts one argument, multiplies it by 5, and returns a new value. Okay, I can do that. So we got function times 5. It takes one argument. I'm going to call it num. Short for number, by the way. And then we're going to return num times 5. We don't need to call it, it seems. We just need to create the function. Let's try it out anyway. Console.log times 5 with 2 in it. Yeah, 5 times 2 is 10. Let's whoopsie daisy. There we go. Let's remove our console log. Hey, there we go. Pat. Nice. Let's keep going. So yeah, you will see this pop up. Just for clarity, I'm not affiliated with FreeCodeCamp or Class Central. I'm just donating my time to do this boot camp. I'm collaborating with them. FreeCodeCamp is open source and completely free and lives off of donations. If you can, of course, donate. I do with a separate account. But if you don't have the means, absolutely don't stress about it. You can click on Ask Me Later. And now comes scope. Ooh, let's read up a little bit about scope. So we were talking a little bit about scope. Somebody was asking questions about it in lesson 1, and we covered it briefly inside. We covered it briefly in the first function lesson. So let's see. In JavaScript, scope refers to the visibility of variables. Variables which are defined outside of a function block have global scope. What does that mean? It means that if we declare a variable out here, let's say let my variable equals a high, it means I'm going to have access to it inside any function. But that's because I'm declaring it outside the functions. Okay? Let's keep reading. Variables which are declared without the let or const keywords are automatically created in the global scope. There is a key difference between var and let. Variables which are declared without the let or const keywords are automatically created in the global scope. This can create unintended consequences elsewhere in your code when running a function again. You should always declare your variables with let or const. So don't take it from me. Take it from FreeCodeCamp. I posted an article a few times in the last couple of lessons. Galbrush, if you could post it again, please, that would be amazing, with the difference between var, let, and const. That said, let's look at the code first that we have here. Let me just return to my initial state. So we're going to declare the myGlobal variable below this line. Okay, we've got a function called fun1. And in line 5, we have a comment that says assign 5 to oops global here. Line 9 outside of fun1, only change code above this line. Okay, what have we got here? My goodness. Function fun2. Var output equals empty string. We've got if. Oh, we haven't done if yet. Type of myGlobal is undefined. Output myGlobal. If type of oops global undefined. Output oops global. What? Do you know what? I'm going to do something a little bit risky and say, before we try and understand what's going on here, since we haven't looked at if yet, I'm actually going to encourage all of you to disregard fun2. Just for now, if you trust me, which I hope you do. We've known each other for a few days now. So let's look at our exercise. Using let or const, declare a global variable named myGlobal outside of any function. Initialize it with a value of 10. I can do that. Const myGlobal equals 10. Cool. Oh, look at that. So fun2 is doing its magic and printing out the value of myGlobal, which is 10. Great. Inside function fun1, assign 5 to oops global without using the var, let, or const keywords. So again, I'm not going to try and understand what fun2 is doing. I'm just going to follow what's going on here. So we're going to assign the number 5 to the variable oops global. And we know how to do that. Oops global equals 5. And our magic function fun2 is doing myGlobal is 10 and oops global is 5. So that looks good. But notice what this is trying to teach us here. We've declared myGlobal variable out here. Fantastic. But check it out. Here, we've assigned the number 5 to the variable oops global, which we haven't declared. This makes it accidentally a global variable. So when you're declaring variables, please always make sure to use var, let, or const. And as FreeCodeCamp says, stick with let or const. Now, this is a lot to take in one exercise. Remember, this is recorded. You can come back at any time and rewatch this. We have the Discord, we have the forum. Keep asking questions. There are 7,000 of you here. I'm sure we can all help one another. So I've done as I'm told. Let's run the tests. Hey, pat. Whew, okay, let's keep going. Now we're going to talk about local scope. And this is something that we covered when I was talking about referencing variables from outside a function. Variables which are declared within a function as well as the function parameters have local scope. That means they are only visible within that function. And let's take a look at the instructions here. Here's a function myTest with a local variable that is local inside the function called lock. So actually, why don't we just copy this? Copy. And I'm actually going to be a little risky here and just delete that code and see. So we have a function called myTest. We have a local variable inside that function called with a value of foo. And this function will console log lock, which should print out foo when we call it in line 6. There we see foo. But in line 7, we try to console log lock, and we're getting an error. Lock is not defined. What's going on? We declared the variable lock inside this function, but not outside. And when we declare a variable inside a function, we generally don't have access to it outside that function. This is what this lesson is trying to teach us. So let's go back to our original code and let's see what the exercise is. The editor has 2 console logs to help you see what's happening. Check the console as you code to see how it changes. Declare a local variable myVar inside myLocalScope and run the tests. Note, the console will still display reference error myVar is not defined, but this will not cause the test to fail. Okay, that sounds good. Let's look at the code now. We've got a function called myLocalScope. which does only one thing, which is to console log inside my local scope and my var. Cool. In line 6, we call my local scope. And then in line 8, we've got some comments. Run and check the console. My var is not defined outside of my local scope. And in line 10, we print out outside my local scope and my var. So the exercise is to declare a local variable my var inside my local scope and run the tests. Let's do it. Const my var equals 5. So line 4 is now working when we call the function inside my local scope 5. But outside, it's not working because, again, my var was declared inside the scope of the function my local scope. So, again, this is all over the place, and I totally get that. This is recorded. We will come back to it. We will come back to it if you have any questions in the Q&A. But for now, we will run the tests and move on. And there we go. Pat, pat. Okay, next up, it's possible to have both local and global variables with the same name. What? When you do this, the local variable takes precedence over the global variable. And I'm going to do something a little bit risky this time. I'm going to skip the example and go right into the exercise. Add a local variable to my outfit to function to override the value of outerwear with the string sweater. Now we'll look at the code. So in line 2, we've got a const outerwear with the value t-shirt. We've got a function myOutfit that returns outerwear. And we call myOutfit in line 11. Let's console log myOutfit. I just want to see what's going on. So the function myOutfit will return the variable outerwear. Now, outerwear is a global variable, right? So far, so good. But here comes the confusing part. We can declare outerwear as a local variable, set its value to be sweater. Wait, what? So we've got a global variable called outerwear. We've got a local variable called outerwear, which when we return it, will return its local value, sweater. But does that mean that it's overridden the global variable? Well, the only way to find out is to console log. Console.log outerwear. Now look at this. The global variable retained its value. It's still t-shirt. But inside the function, we locally set the local variable outerwear to have the value sweater. So what we've learned here is that when we declare a local variable, it can take precedence over a global variable with the same name. Let's run our tests and move on. Huh? Yes. Pat, pat. Hey, we talked about this before. A function can include a return statement, but it does not have to. In the case that the function doesn't have a return statement, when you call it, the function processes the inner code, but the return value is undefined. Remember, we talked about this at the beginning of this session. Let's take a look at our code. We've got a variable sum equals 0, and we've got a function add3 that sets the value of sum to be sum plus 3. Okay. And we've got a function call of add3 and a function call of add5 at the end. But we don't have a function called add5. So let's see what's going on. Create a function add5 without any arguments. Okay. This function adds 5 to the sum variable, but its return value is undefined. Cool. Let's define that function. Add 5. That does not receive any arguments. And inside the function, it will add 5 to the sum variable. Now, we could do it with sum equals sum plus 3, but if you remember, we learned a handy-dandy way of doing it with plus equals. So sum plus equals 5. Now, let's do some console logging. I love console logging. So if we console log sum at the beginning, it's 0. Makes sense. Now, some of you are asking why use return? This is the lesson showing you why. So console log sum, it's 0. What if we console log add 3? It's undefined. Why? Because it doesn't return anything. We don't have a return. But we are adding 3 to the variable sum. So if we console log sum after calling add 3, check it out. 0, undefined because we didn't return anything, and then 3. Let's console log add 5. Also undefined. Why? Because the function add 5 does not return anything. This is the critical part. If we console log sum after calling add 5, it's got a value of 8 because first we added 3 and then we added 5. So this is the key part of return. We're going to see in the next exercise how we can use return to make this code a little nicer. I think it's the next one. So we did the exercise, pat. Let's submit and go to the next challenge. Okay, assignment with a returned value. So let's see. You know what? I'm not going to, let's read this real briefly. If you recall from our discussion about storing values with the assignment operator, everything to the right of the equal sign is resolved before the value is assigned. That means we can take the return value of a function and assign it to a variable. Remember, we did that a few lessons ago. Assume we have a predefined function sum, which adds 2 numbers together. Then we can store our sum to be the value of sum of 5 and 12. So we played around with this. Let's take a look here. We've got we got a variable called processed equals 0. And then we've got a function process arg that returns num plus 3 divided by 5. So call the process arg function with an argument of 7 and assign its return value to the variable processed. So we can say processed is equals to processed arg. And remember, we need to give it an argument. It wants us to call it with an argument of 7. It's not processed arg, it's process arg. My mistake. And that's all well and good, but there's no console logs here. So I'm just going to add one just for testing. Console log processed. So that's 2. So the value of processed has been set to be the return value of this function. Now remember, if we don't return, what happens? Undefined. So we need to return the value so that it gets set in this variable. So let's see, 7 plus 3 is 10, divided by 5 is 2. So that's why we return. Let's run our tests. Hey, pat. Hey, check it out. We're exactly 50% of the way through Basic JavaScript. Well done, everybody. And now we've got an exercise. Ooh, in computer science, a queue is an abstract data structure where items are kept in order. New items can be added at the back of the queue, while old items are taken off from the front of the queue. First in, first out. That's the name of the principle of a queue. The first person to come into the queue is the first person to come out of the queue. So when we add something to a queue, we add it to the back, and the oldest item is taken off the front. So write a function next in line which takes an array R. We see it here, function next in line R, and a number item as arguments. There's the number item. Add the number to the end of the array, then remove the first element of the array. The next in line function should then return the element that was removed. Okay, so next in line will add something to the beginning and put it, and then give us the first item of the array and remove it. And we know how to do that already from the homework. So let's see what's going on. We've got a setup. in line 9, test array, which is the numbers 1 through 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we've got displays. So console.log before, and then we'd have some funny JSON stringify. I'm not going to worry about that too much because we haven't learned JSON yet. Then in line 13, we've got a console log with next in line test array and 6. Then we've got console log after JSON stringify test array. So before 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we've got the return value of the function printed out, and then we've got the after. Now, what should happen is if I call next in line, 6 should be added to the end, and 1 should come out, I think. Yeah, because 1 was the first one to come in, and last and 5 and sorry, I'm confusing myself. Let me start over. When I call next in line with 6, the number 1 should come out, and the number 6 should be added to the end. First in, first out. So how do we do that? Well, we know how to do this with, push and pop, shift and unshift. Remember those? Those are from the homework. So first things first, let's add the item to the end of the array. We do that with, is it unshift? No, it's with push. So r.push item. We're halfway there. Our function will now push the item to the end of the array. We can see that before and after. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're almost there, but we still need to remove the first item and return that first item. And we can do that here, because right now it's returning 6, which is the item itself. But we want to be returning the first member. So that would be r.shift. And remember, shift does two things. First, it removes the first item of the array, and it returns that first item. So check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We return the 1, and we now have an array with 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is a great exercise for understanding functions, returns, push, shift, and array manipulation in general. So that's the exercise. Let's run the tests. Hey, pat. Whew. Now we're going to be doing Booleans. Cool. So we talked about Booleans briefly yesterday during Q&A, but essentially they are special data types that have only one of two types of values, true or false. A Boolean is a data type that is either true or false. Now, very important, and FreeCodeCamp spells it out here, Boolean values are never written with quotes. It's always just like that, true or false. So let's see. Let's take a look at our code. We've got a function called welcome to Booleans and return false. That's all it does. So console.log welcome to Booleans. So because it returns false, it prints out false. What's our exercise though? Modify the welcome to Booleans function so that it returns true instead of false when the run button is clicked. Let's do it. Return true. Now it's returning true, which prints out true. And that's all we want to do. And this is a bit confusing. When the run button is clicked, I think it means run the tests. Let's give it a try. That's right. Pat. Let's keep going. Now comes if. This is where code, in my opinion, gets really sensitive. Got a quick question that I want to answer. Are true and false case sensitive? Yes. Do not write it with the capitals. Always lowercase in JavaScript. Cool. If statements are used to make decisions in code. The keyword if tells JavaScript to execute the code in the curly braces under certain conditions defined in parentheses. What? Defined in the parentheses. Right. So we can write out if and then some parentheses, and it will run the code inside the curly brackets. So far, I follow. These conditions are known as Boolean conditions, and they may only be true or false. When the condition evaluates to true, the program executes the statement inside the curly braces. So if the stuff inside the parentheses is true, has a value of true, then we execute the statement inside the curly brackets. When the Boolean condition evaluates to false, the statement inside the curly brackets will not execute. That means if the stuff inside the parentheses has a value of true, then we'll execute the code inside these curly brackets. If it's not true, if it's false, then this code will be ignored. And this is super important. Before we do anything here, let's play around with if statements outside of our function. If true, console log, hooray, true. So this is our first if statement. If true, then we'll print out hooray, true. So far, so good. But what if this is false? Let's give it a try. Now it's not getting executed. See? Your test output will go here. So if the value inside this brackets is false, if the Boolean inside here is false, then we do not execute this code. And you can see FreeCodeCamp is like, hey, this isn't happening. So that's how if statements work. But a little bit further, look at what's going on here on the left. Function test my condition. If my condition, as in if it's true, we return it was true. Otherwise, there's no otherwise. And then if the condition is not true, we return it was false. I want to try this code out because I think it's important. I'm going to copy paste it. Let's console log. So when we call test with true, it prints out it was true. Fantastic. If I call console log with test false, it was false. But what's going on here? Remember the way return works. When we call return, when we do a return, the function stops executing. So we don't get to this point. So if my condition, which remember is a Boolean, we can return this and then stop here. However, if this is false, we ignore this code and jump over to line 12. It was false. So that's how if statements work. Let's get to our exercise. Create an if statement inside of the function to return, yes, that was true, if the parameter that was that true is true, and return, no, that was false otherwise. Okay, so let's do it. If was that true, we return, yes, that was true. Remember, this was a string. Great. Otherwise, no, that was false. Let's give it a try. Console log true or false, and we're going to give it the parameter true. Yes, that was true. Now we're going to give it false. No, that was false. So that's how that works. Let's run the tests. Pat. We got a question. Does using additional else below if matter here? We haven't gotten to else yet, but we're about to. So hold on there, because I believe, no, we're still doing equality. There is else in JavaScript, and it's one of the exercises. So there are many comparison operators in JavaScript. All of these operators return a Boolean true or false. So what's going on here is we can use these special operators called comparison operators to check certain conditions, to compare two different values. Now, before I'm doing anything here, I'm just going to start messing around with console log, my favorite. Console.log. Let's look at some comparison operators. Let's say I have the number 5, and I want to check if it's bigger than 6. I will use the bigger than sign and 6. I'm console logging whether 5 is bigger than 6, and it's saying false. So using the comparison operator will give us a Boolean. And of course, 5 is not bigger than 6, so it's false. What if we use 5 is smaller than 6? We get true. Now, if we want to check if two things are equal, you might be thinking, oh, we just use the equal sign. But remember, the equal sign is the assignment operator. It's not for checking if two things are equal. It's for assigning the value of one thing to another, namely a variable. So if we want to compare if two things are equal, we want to use the double equals sign. So is 5 equals to 6? No, it's false. But what about is 6 equals to 6? It's true. So this is how equality operators work. And there's a whole bunch of them. For example, you can do like, is 6 less than or equals to 6? So you do less than and then equals. That means less than or equals. And that's true because 6 is equals to 6. But there's more to it. Check out what happens if I do 5 is double equals to the string 5. That's true. That's odd. One is a number, the other one is a string. So what's going on? This is where coercion is happening. Remember, I think it was yesterday. Yesterday we talked about type coercion. So with the double equals, JavaScript is saying, okay, I see this is a string and I see this is a number. I'm going to coerce one of them to be, I'm going to coerce them both to be the same type. I'm going to typecast, change them to be from number to string or from string to number. I'm not sure which is which. And check that they're the same value. But what if we don't want to do that? Well, that's where another equality operator comes in, which is the triple equals, or as I like to call it, the 3 equals sign. So we're going to go with triple equals. If you hear me say 3 equals, it means triple equals. So with the 3 equals sign, we're saying, hey, do these two have the same value and are they the same type? Which they're not. So that's the difference between double equals, which checks like, okay, this is a number, this is a string, I'll just make them the same so I can check. Whereas this one's like, no, they need to be the same type. We cool? So, oh, Kalu says string to number, thank you very much. So it converts the string to a number. So what's our exercise? Add the equality operator to the indented line so that the function will return the string equal when val is equivalent to 12. So let's see. We've got a function called test equals with a parameter val. Then we do if val, we want to change this line, we return equals. Otherwise, we return not equal. So let's see. The function will return the string equal when val is equivalent to 12. So equivalent means that we want to check that they're equal. So we'll do double equals 12. So if val is double equals to 12, we return equal. Otherwise, we return not equal. Let's give it a try. And there we go. Pat. Let's keep going. Here comes the strict equality operator. Remember the 3 equals. So I'm just going to, since we've already covered that, I'm just going to jump right into the exercise. Use the strict equality operator, or 3 equals, as I like to call it, in the if statement. So the function will return the string equal when val is strictly equals to 7. I want to test this real quick. So we want to do val 3 equals 7. Console log some of these returns just in case. So if we do console log test strict 10, they're not equals because 10 is not equals to 7. If I do it with 7, it'll do equals. Makes sense. What if I do 7 in a string? Not equal. Why? Because it's doing the strict equality. Use the strict equality operator in the if statement so the function will return the string equal when val is strictly equals to 7. Looks good. Let's run the tests. Nice. Pat. Let's keep going. Whew. All right. So we're going to practice. We're going to practice comparing different values. Fabulous. In the last 2 challenges, we learned about equality and the strict equality operators. Let's do a quick review and practice these operators some more. If the values being compared are not the same type, the equality operator will perform a type conversion and then equate the values. However, we know this already. The strict equality operator will compare the data type and the value. So what's our exercise? The compare equality function in the editor compares two values using the equality operator. Modify the function so that it returns the string equals only when the values are strictly equal. Okay, what do we got? We got the function compare equality with A and B. If A is equals to B, we return equal. Otherwise, we return not equal. And we're comparing the equality of 10 and the string 10. Let's console log that. Right now it's saying equals, but they should not be. And that's because we're using the double equals or the equality operator, but we should be using three equals or the strict equality operator. Once that's done, we're good to go. Let's run the tests. Nice. Pat, pat. Let's see. We're coming up on the hour. I want to do a couple more. Yeah, the inequality operator. So what we're doing here is the opposite of equality. Before we jump in, let's play around with it. Console log. So let's say we want to check that 1, as we see in the example on the left. Let's check that 1 is not equals to 2. So 1 is not equals. Notice the exclamation mark to 2. So if 1 is not equals to true, it'll print out true. Hold on, what? Yeah. So it is true that 1 is not equals to 2. But is 1 double equals to 2? False. 1 is not equals to 2. But is 1 not equals to 2? Yes, it's true. How about 2? Is 2 not equals to 2? No, that's false. Make sense? What about strict equality? Is 2 not equals to the string 2? False. They aren't equal. This is where the strict inequality operator comes in. I can't call it three equals anymore because there's no 3 in them. So the strict inequality operator checks that the number 2 is not same as the string 2. With the inequality operator, it checks that 2 and 2 are not the same. And remember, it does that type coercion that we explored previously. So what's our exercise? Add the inequality operator in the if statement so that the function will return the string not equal when val is not equivalent to 99. So test not equal, we want to change this to be val not equals to 99. Whew. Awesome. Test not equals 10. Let's console log that. Not equal. There we go. So that's how that works. Let's run our tests. Phew. Okay. Pat. So I think we got time for 1 or 2 more. Oh, here we go. Comparison with the strict inequality operator. So the function on the right will look very much the same, but we want to test strict inequality. So add the strict inequality operator to the if statement so the function will return string not equals when val is not strictly equals to 17. Folks, if you're lost, don't worry. Remember, this is all recorded. We've got a whole bunch of support for you in Discord and the forum. You just got to come and ask for help. And I want to get into asking help in just a second because I've got some things to say. But first, we got to finish this exercise. So test strict not equals val. If val, here we go, strictly not equals to 17, then we return not equals. Let's run our test and see if that works. There we go. Pat. I know it's the top of the hour, but I would like to do just one more, and then we'll go into Q&A. Okay? So now we're going to do comparison with the greater than operator or bigger than. Remember, I mentioned that towards the beginning of the Boolean section. So the greater than operator will compare the values of 2 numbers and just check if the left one is bigger than the right one. So here's some examples. If 5 is bigger than 3, yes, it's true. 7 is bigger than 3, true. Notice there's no strict equality here. 2 is bigger than 3, false. 2 is smaller than 3. Is the string 1 bigger than 9? False, because it's type coercing and doing 1 is bigger than 9? False. So our exercise is to add the greater than operator to the indicated lines so that the return statements make sense. So first thing I'm going to do is console log this. Console log test greater than 10. And I want to see what it returns. If we call test greater than 10, test greater than, and then I just have the value here, 10 for the parameter. What does console log test greater than 10? It currently returns over 100, which it's not. So let's see what we got here. We got an if statement with val that returns over 100. So we want to check here that val is bigger than 100. Go back to the code now. Sorry, to the output. Now it's saying over 10, but 10 is not greater than 10. Our if statement here, 6, if val still needs a comparison. If val is bigger than 10, then it returns over 10. Otherwise, it returns 10 or under. So console log test greater than 10 is 10 or under. Perfect. What if we do it with 9? 10 or under. What if we do it with 11? Oops, sorry. If we do it with 11, it's over 10. If we do it with 99, it's over 10. If we do it with 100, it's over 10. But if we do it with 101, it's over 100. So first it checks if it's bigger than 100 and returns over 100. Then it checks if it's not over 100, that it's over 10. If it is over 10, it returns the string over 10. If none of these are true, then it'll just return 10 or under. Let's run our tests. And there we go. Pat, pat. Submit and go to the next challenge. And this is where we will stop for today. Let's do homework before we go into Q&A. So let's see. We've done a whole bunch today. Ooh, boy, we've done a lot. So what I would like you to do, and this time I'm going to give you a big homework. So you're going to be doing all of these exercises. You're going to learn about else. And tomorrow, we're going to start with, sorry, not tomorrow. This is the last lesson of this week. What am I saying? On Monday, oh yeah, it's a weekend. I'm going to give you lots of homework. I'm going to give you all the way down to counting cards. So on Monday, we will start with build JavaScript objects. Some of you have been asking for more homework. Here you go. So you're going to do all of these exercises. We're going to go all the way down to build JavaScript objects. So on Monday, we will start at build JavaScript objects. So your homework is to do all of the exercises down until there. Okay? Now remember, this is a lot. There is support for you. You've got the forum. Let me just grab the link for the forum. Where's that forum link? There we go. Nope. Here we go. group.classcentral.com. Come ask questions there. There's a Discord link in the dashboard as well. Join the Discord community. Now, I would like to give you some advice, if I may, on asking for help. Sometimes if you're stuck on an exercise, it might be very tempting to write into the Discord or the forum saying, help, I'm stuck on exercise 9, which is good. But in order to speed this up for you, in order for us to be able to make this as effective for you as possible, it's a good idea to say, hey, I'm stuck on line 69. I'm getting this error. I don't understand why. Here's the code I have. If you want to post a screenshot, you absolutely can. And maybe explain what you've tried. Again, asking for help effectively is such a good skill to have because then you make it super fast for us to be able to help you. All right. Don't forget, the next class is on Monday, but tomorrow at 7 p.m. CEST, which is 17 UTC, so 5 p.m. UTC, you will find the rest of the time zones in the Class Central dashboard. We will be having a very special guest. Let me see where is. Yes. Aha. Guest session, learning how to learn for programmers with Dr. Barbara Oakley and Zach Caceres. This will be tomorrow at 5 p.m. UTC. You will find the time in your time zone in classcentral.com. So don't miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And with that, let's do some Q&A. So please, Galbresh, if you could start highlighting some questions for me. Is there a way of making bigger than or smaller than strict operators? That's a good question that I was afraid of because I don't know. JavaScript, we're just going to go on DuckDuckGo and look this up. JavaScript greater than strict. I'm going to open 2 tabs here. Now, remember, the questions we asked today, I'm going to prioritize the ones that have to do with today's content. If you have other questions, please feel free to ask them, but I'm going to prioritize the ones first to answer the ones that are about today's content. Absolutely come back to Discord and forum to ask questions rather about JavaScript or tech careers. Strict. What do we got? So on Stack Overflow, I will accept cookies. Thank you. Let me make this a little bit larger. While JavaScript's TypeScript comparison operators, 3 equals and not double equals, are nice, it doesn't have a corresponding strict operators for greater than and less than. So it would appear that we don't. Let me try jumping into an exercise. Console log 5 is smaller than or equals double equals to 5. So no, it is not. It would appear it is not possible. If I'm wrong, please tell me in the chat, but apparently not. Any other questions? Can you please re-explain return a value from a function with return? It became confusing at that point. Okay, let's do that. So where were we? Return, what is it again? What is the question? Return a value from a function with return. Return there we go. Right, okay. I'm just gonna copy this function here and paste it in here. We've got a function +3 that takes an argument none and return num +3. And then the answer is +3, 5. So let's console log answer. So +3 returns the value of num +3. We're assigning the value answer, the variable answer, to have the value of what is returned from +3 with 5. So if we console log answer, the returned value is being printed out. However, if we don't return, if a function does not return something in JavaScript, it will automatically return undefined. Again, if we return, it will return a value. And this value can be anything. Return hello. If it returns hello, it'll say hello. If we just have hello there without anything, the function will return undefined. Okay? Hope that helps. Absolutely recommend. Return will return a value. No return will automatically return undefined. What have we got? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, any alternative to console log? I'll come back to that question, Simanjali. Give me 1 second because I love this. Return is like going to the store to buy some apples. You have to return 5 apples to your home. If you don't return anything, there's nothing. It's undefined. Thank you, Zenzir. It's such a good example. I love it. So the question was, any alternatives to console log? I don't think so. I think the only way to print out in JavaScript is console.log. Oh, hold on. Fantastic Fox has an excellent point. Alert. Just a quick caveat. Alert will show a dialog in your browser saying, alert, let's try it out. Hey, fun fact. If you go to your dev tools in your browser, hold on, developer tools. Let me just make this larger because this is very, very small. Some of you might have messed around with the developer tools already, but what I want to do here is highlight something very cool. If you go to the console tab, this will allow you to do some JavaScript in your console. Console.log hello. So it printed out hello. This is only in the browser. Now I want to add another caveat. If you're given code to copy paste into your console, be very, very careful. Do not paste it. It could be bad. But let's try out alert, because alert is a browser only thing that's very cool. Check it out. So I'm going to call the function alert with hello. This is built into the browser. Check it out. Oh no, it's very small, but if you see at the top here, I don't know why I'm pointing. If you see here at the top, you see FreeCodeCamp.org says hello with a button OK to put it away. So that's another, that's a good point. That is in a way Fantastic Fox to show a semi-alternative to console log. Any other questions? Is there a difference between the terms parameter or argument, or do they mean the same thing? Okay. I saw it. I saw that somebody actually explained that here in the chat. Let me see. Let me see if I got it, because somebody made a great point. Is there? Okay. I think. No, actually, you know what? I'm not going to try and think. I'm going to try and difference between parameter and argument JavaScript. Now, I believe parameters are the ones that we define when we're declaring a function, and arguments are the ones that we pass to a function when we call it. Let me see if I got that right, and then we'll test it out. Yeah. What is the main difference? Parameters are aliases for the values that will be passed to the functions. The arguments are the actual values. Okay. Oh, actually, you can see the code here. Oh, this is nice. So we've got a variable. We got a function here, with 3 parameters, A, B, and C. Here we can see A, B, and C are the parameters. When we call the function, we pass in the arguments 1, 2, and 3 that get stored in the parameters A, B, and C. So the arguments get stored in the parameters. I love this answer, and I love this question. Thank you. Any other questions? What happens if you use a Boolean with the comparison operators? Y'all just want to see the world burn. I love it. Console.log. I love experimenting. This is great. Is true bigger than true? I think it's not. Of course, true is not bigger than true. Is true bigger than false? Yes. Is false bigger than true? Assume not. False. Is false bigger than or equals to true? Of course not. No, they're not equals. Now you might be wondering, huh? This is a great question, because what it comes from the way that true and false are expressed to a computer. A computer only speaks in binary, ones and zeros, right? So when we're telling a computer at the low level, like, hey, this is true and this is false, the computer's like, I gotcha. This is 1 and this is 0, right? True is 1, false is 0. So is 1 bigger than 0? Yeah. So that's a good question. Thank you. What else we got? Do if statement execute on a top-down approach? What do you think about using switch cases instead of if statements? Asante, I love this question. Yes. So let's define a function. Actually, I can do you one better. We can go look at I'm just going to go back to the last exercise we did, I think. Let me just scroll down real quick. Comparison with the greater than operator. Now I'm just going to restore the code we had. If val, so we have the test greater than equal, test greater than function. If val is bigger than 100, we return over 100. If val is bigger than 10, we return 10. So what you're asking is, do if statements execute on a top-down approach? Yes. First, we check this if statement. Then we check this if statement. Right? Procedural. Now, you're also asking, what do you think about using switch cases instead of if statements? And I'm going to save that question for the homework, because the homework will actually cover switch statements. In short, if there are lots of if-else statements, it makes sense to use a switch statement. But that's for equality, of course. Any other questions? Yeah. What other questions we got? Does function need return if there is no argument passed to it? Is there a difference between calling function with or without return? Why use return? What can we not do without using return? I'm just going to cover it briefly again because I explained it in a previous question, but essentially, actually, where's that explanation? Yes. Return is like going to the store to buy some apples. You have to return 5 apples to your home. If you don't return with apples, there's nothing. It's undefined. So a function will always return a value, whether you want it to or not. So if you explicitly say, hey, return this value, it'll give you that value when you call it. If you don't return a value, it will return undefined. Thank you for asking. Let's do another one. Oh, can I learn data visualization at FreeCodeCamp after completing this bootcamp? Good question. Let's go take a look at the certifications. Data visualization. I haven't actually done this one. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this will do JSON, which is JavaScript object notation. We'll use the D3JS library. Yeah. You can totally do this. You might have, like, I also recommend doing the web development one where you learn about HTML and CSS. Once you've got those 3 down, the world is your oyster. Great question. Thank you. What do we got? In terms of scopes within blocks and outside blocks, can you tell the differences of var, let, and const? I will go back to the article that I've sent out a few times. Where is that? Galbrush, you got it? Essentially, let and const define variables within the local scope of a function. Var can be a little bit of a weirdo and sometimes do global or not. I recommend reading that article that we're about to post. Do you have it, Galbrush? If not, I will happily. Hey, there it is. freecodecamp.org/news/var, let, and const. What's the difference? Check them out. Any other questions? In the construction of if statements, can the curly brackets be omitted as in the case of other programming languages while maintaining indentation? Yes. I'm sorry to hesitate. I'm just going to go open an exercise here. So let's change this one. So what Asante is asking is, can we have it on one here? So if val is bigger than 100, so what you are asking is if you can have if statements in one line like this. If val is bigger than 100, return over 100. If val is bigger than 10, return over 10. You can, but the moment you need more, and let's try it out. Console log. So 10 is 10 or under. Let's try 100 over 10. If we try 1,000 over 100. So the moment you need more than one line, then you'll need the curly brackets. Number one. Number two, different projects will disagree on this. Different maintainers of open source projects will disagree on this. Different code bases will disagree on this. But in general, I recommend being consistent. With the use of curly brackets. Personal opinion, up to you. I like the curly brackets. Thank you for asking. What other questions we got? Can you please tell me a practical example of multidimensional arrays? A practical example of multidimensional arrays. Okay. A multidimensional array, if you're familiar with mathematics, a matrix, you just declare an array here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So here we've got a multidimensional array. It is a matrix that is, let's console log our matrix. I have no idea how it's going to look. Okay, so there's an array made up of three elements: one array, two array, three array, and each array has 3 numbers. Now, if we want to perform any mathematical, let's say we want to add 2 matrices together, then we can store that data like this and operate them accordingly. Why can't I think of a API-led example? Let's say we have a list. I mean, and many times in software development, we'll need lists of lists. For example, well, something like HTML, right? A list can have sublists, and if we wanted to store those in JavaScript, we would need to iterate through each list and through each sublist. I like what H to the OV is saying, a photo. What a great practical example. A photo is a series of binary data in a 2-dimensional array. I love it. Ooh! H to the OV says is basically a multi-dimensional array of RGB values. What is RGB? Red, green, and blue values. Great answer. Oh, look at y'all. Making tables. Love it. A list of albums and their songs. Fantastic. Yeah, of course. You can have a list of albums, and each album has a list of songs. Look at you all being so good at this. I should have been more ready for y'all's question. I should have had coffee this morning. Cool. What's the next question? Does JavaScript support if else or else if other than if and else? Are you asking if I think what you're asking is, sorry, please correct me if I misunderstood. Does JavaScript support if else? Const 10. What am I doing? Const my var equals 10. If my var is bigger than 5, console log bigger than 5. So here we've got an if statement. We've got a variable called myVar, which is set to 10. And if myVar is bigger than 5, which it is, we print out bigger than 5. What you're going to be learning in the homework is that you can also have an else statement. Smaller than 5. So an else statement is directly linked to an if statement to say, if the above condition is not true, then run this code. Let's try it out with the number 4. 4 is smaller than 5. We ignore bigger than 5. Cool. Awesome. So you're asking does JavaScript support else if? It absolutely should. Oh, I need an else if my var is bigger than 7. Bigger than 2. And it'll say smaller than 5, but bigger than 2. Cool. So 4 is smaller than 5, but bigger than 2. Otherwise, console log really small. So what's going on here? If my var is bigger than 5, we print out bigger than 5. Perfect. Else if my var is bigger than 2, so if it's not bigger than 5, but it is bigger than 2, then we'll print out smaller than 5, but bigger than 2. But if none of these conditions are true, then we'll just print out really small. So let's try that with the number 1. Really small. So again, that'll be in the homework, so don't worry. Any other questions? What's the effect of starting writing code immediately under the parenthesis? You know what, problem? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Under the parenthesis? What is the effect of writing code immediately under the parenthesis? Which parenthesis? I'm really sorry. Please follow up on that question because I don't understand. Yeah. Any other questions? What does a full stack Python developer mean? Which tools am I supposed to learn? Okay, so I said I'm going to prioritize questions with the content of today's lesson, but in short, full stack is a combination of backend, front-end, and DevOps development. That is, backend, a server, front-end can be a mobile app, a web app, a website, a command line tool, a native app. These are all front ends. And the DevOps is deploying amongst other things, checking that the code works, deploying it, making sure it's live, releasing it, all of that. It's a lot. So that's what the full stack means. Which tools are you supposed to learn? I'm very sorry. I'm not a Python developer, so I don't know. But I believe, did I see some Python here? Scientific computing, data analysis, machine learning. No, I guess not. Why don't you ask in the Bootcamp forum in Discord? I'm really sorry. I'm not a Python developer. I'm a Ruby on Rails guy. Any other questions? Why are parameters not declared? Great question. I mean, my first instinct is to be like, oh, but they are. But the problem is we're not declaring them with a var, let, or const, which is where the concern comes from. Let's look at understanding of undefined. No, not this one. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll down to, where is that? Return a value. Yeah. Here we go. So in our example, I'm just going to copy paste this code. Function +3 with num. Here we're declaring the parameter num, but we're not declaring it with let, const, or var. Yeah. So that means that it's being, and we tested it earlier. It appears to be being declared kind of similarly to let, but we don't need to pass in the keyword. JavaScript understands that this is a parameter. Now, why? I can't answer that, I'm afraid. That's the design of the programming languages. Any other questions? Can you explain about truthy and falsy? Okay, let's go. So let's console log true. True is true. How can I do this? Hold on. If true, console log high. So since this condition is true, we will console log high. We know that. If we console log false, nothing will show up. But what if we console log 1? It'll print out high. What's going on here? The number 1, and most numbers, 156, and 9, and 6, 8, and 7, 5, blah, 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 a whole bunch of numbers. Any number is truthy. It means that JavaScript will coerce it, will interpret it as true if in an if statement. But not all numbers. I believe 0 is falsy. So most numbers are truthy, 0 is falsy. And there's a couple of these. A string. An empty string is falsy. Hello. A string with content in it is truthy. Yeah? So some values are truthy, some values are falsy. I believe undefined is falsy as well. Let's take a look. Undefined is falsy. Null. Not defined because it has a capital N. Null is falsy. So that's the difference. Any other questions? Can you talk of operator precedence in the event where you want to compare more than two numbers? Okay, let's do that. So console log 5. Let me see if I understand the question correctly. 5 is smaller than 2. It's false. But what if I want to operator you mean like 5 plus 2 is smaller than 2. Wait, no. 1 is smaller than 2 is true. Right. We know that 1 is smaller than 2. What if I do 1 plus 1 is smaller than true? Is false. What's going on here? It first does the addition, so 1 plus 1, and then checks if it's smaller than 2. But what if I do brackets around the 1 is smaller than 2 plus 1? What's going on here? 1 is smaller than 2, which is true. Then we're taking that true and adding 1 to it. 1 plus true, which remember is 1, is what? Is 2. Play around with this. But yes, this is called operator precedence. Usually brackets will let you very strictly say which operation comes first. And the order of these, I'm sure you can find on MDN. Let's do a couple more questions. Galbraith, I hope you don't mind if we do just like a couple more. How can I make my logic and algorithm strong? Practice. Asking questions. So I can't, I can't tell you since like, I can't tell you strongly like the XYZ. Unfortunately, no learning path is the same for everybody. So what I recommend is practice. FreeCodeCamp's exercises are great for getting started. There are other platforms like Odin Project and Scrimba that lets you help with this. Exorcism.org, I'm going to post that in the chat, is a great platform for learning and mentoring. So hope that helps. Lead code, somebody says. That's a good one. Operator precedence and BODMAS, are they related? I don't know what BODMAS is. Could you please explain? Any other questions? Please explain hoisting and especially in arrow functions. I'm sorry, we haven't gotten there at the bootcamp yet, and I want to be very, very strict about this, but we will cover hoisting and arrow functions in this bootcamp, so I will leave that explanation for when we get there. Very sorry, I'm going to be strict about this. So if we're out of questions, I would say so new programmer says BODMAS rule in mathematics. I'm very sorry, I don't know this. We could look it up real quick. BODMAS maths. Is there a wiki? Oh, here we go. So brackets come first, orders come next, then division, then multiplication, then addition, and then subtraction. I don't know. I really don't know. I would recommend giving that a search, or maybe asking. Let's give it a quick search. Let's indulge ourselves. JavaScript BODMAS. How does JavaScript handle BODMAS? Let's have a look. In JavaScript, addition and subtraction have the same precedence, as both have left to right associativity. So with your code and your fiddle, result can be calculated like this. The only way to be broken up difficultly is if the addition had a higher precedence that subtraction, like multiplication does, but it doesn't. Aha. So BODMAS should really be brackets, order, then these two, and then these two. Similarly, all of the following references say that in the standard arithmetic division and multiplication have the same precedence, and addition and subtraction have the same precedence. The rules are multiply and divide from left to right, add and subtract from left to right. That doesn't really answer whether it's the same in JavaScript. I want to answer just a couple more questions. So let's come back to that maybe in the forum or the Discord, please. Enterpret is asking, will we make projects? Yes. So in this JavaScript certificate, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, here we go. There are 5 projects that we will do. The palindrome checker, the Roman numeral converter, the Caesar cipher, the telephone number validator, and the cash register. We will do this. You will find the days that we do this on the calendar in Class Central. Will we make projects using database or backend? No. This bootcamp is for the JavaScript algorithms and data structures certification. So just the language. Thank you for asking. Any other questions? I think I'm going to do one more and then I got to let folks rest. Otherwise, actually, I think we're good. Yeah, I don't think we have any more questions. In that case, quick reminder, everything is recorded on YouTube. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. UTC, we will have a guest session with Dr. Barbara Oakley and Zach Casares on learning how to learn. This is a very different time than the one we're doing now. So if it's too late, don't worry. It is recorded. All of these are recorded. So with all that said, congratulations on making it through week 1 of the JavaScript Bootcamp. You've all done fantastically well, and I wish you all the best. Remember, the homework is to do all of the exercises until counting cards. So on Monday, we will start with build JavaScript objects. So with that said, wish you all the best. Oh, okay, one tiny question. Will there be any tests and exams? Just the projects. You will get the FreeCodeCamp certification. So go on classcentral.com to find out tomorrow's guest session time slot. And with that, new programmer, one more question. Okay. Because I like all of you so much, let's do one more question. What is it, new programmer? We have no classes after tomorrow. Tomorrow, there will be no session. You can check the schedule in classcentral.com. There will be no lesson tomorrow, but there will be the guest session. We'll be together learning on Monday.